Hello and welcome to the Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, and I am going to answer any questions you have on marriage and midlife crisis. For the first time, I have only received one question, and it was actually a question I had waiting in my queue already. So if anybody is out there watching, you can ask questions in the comments, and I will see them. You can also just send in questions. I've actually got the submission form kind of open, but it might be a little bit hard for me to go through it, but as well. And I've got a couple topics that someone had suggested. Plus, yesterday I saw okay, I I don't know what happened. It has been doing that lately, and I don't know why. Um, but I saw that in the other day a session on boundaries, a discussion topic on boundaries was going on in the chat. And I did not get to look at that, but I thought it might be a good topic for discussion if anyone had any comments on it or questions about it. So we can get started, and there's a good chance we can finish early unless you have lots of questions. So I'm going to first go check, make sure everything is working, even though first it didn't work. Let me know if you can hear me or if you can't hear me. And we might have some of those glitches too, because I've been noticing that's been happening lately with StreamYard. So first, let me make sure that it is coming through in Facebook and on YouTube, because I'm going live on Facebook and on YouTube. So hold on while I refresh my page. And I'm going live now. I hope to go live next Monday and next Thursday. So please submit questions so that I have something to do when I go live. And I'm going live now to launch my membership. I open it for 1 week. It is Stand Up and Thrive. It is for you guys. It's for forward moving spouses who are dealing with a spouse that is in midlife crisis. And it is a support group. So we work on detachment, and we get together several times a week and we talk about it. This course also includes my online course, Detach and Thrive, which is a course that is embedded into it, which has videos and workbooks in it. And you get to do that as self-study on your own through the course. It is dripped over across 8 weeks. So if you have any questions about that, you can also ask me about Detach and Thrive, or you can go to the link for Stand Up and Thrive and read the information about it in there. So it looks like I'm coming through on Facebook. Let me check on YouTube, and so I refresh my page for a moment. And yes, it looks like it is at least working. Okay. So we're going to get to our question number 1, which that's all there is. And let me go to that one. That it hasn't ended the stream. Okay. And I am back, but there's a little bit of a delay. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I just don't know how it's going to keep doing that. But our first one is we have an anonymous male forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of May 8th, 2021, and a date of marriage of 1998. He has an at-home MLCer, and she is a high energy replayer. So he says, after 3.5 years since bomb drop, things it's still a roller coaster. During Christmas, things went well, other than the fact that my wife referred to everything as being hers alone. And in this particular MLCer, she's had a pattern of doing that. Now, that's not uncommon for MLCers. Sears. And we've talked about that with him in the past with you. But it does feel more odd, doesn't it, when she's been at home the whole time. I think one of your first questions was about, do they refer to your daughter as my daughter? And that's really common. But it kind of gets old when she's still living at home and everything is being referred to as hers alone. My house, my room, my this, my that. It becomes awkward, doesn't it? So whereas it wouldn't feel as awkward if one of you weren't living there and you had Christmas together but weren't there. She started to make random conversation with me. This was an absolute no until recently, and she does make more direct eye contact. Okay. I let her begin the conversations. That's good. But they never include any talk of our relationship, which is normal right now. Yeah. She still continues the trips to see her younger friend, so that remains. And this was a younger female friend who initially we were thinking that it seemed maybe she was taking on a mentorship role, and then it seemed like there was maybe an intimate relationship. And does it still seem like that's that way? She can be an alienator or an alienating force either way. But the question then is, could this be the start of an awakening, or is it just a way to keep me engaged while she continues the cake eating? I really think it's cake eating. I really do. I don't see awakening yet. I don't know that it's a way to keep you engaged. I think it is part of processing and progress. But when you say, is it to keep you engaged? The idea is, though, if she were trying to keep you engaged, that would be a deliberation or intentional on her part. Coming in again? Okay. And that's odd. Now I'm in almost in twice. I don't know if I'll be in twice for you as well. Let me, oh yeah. Look, there's two of me. Okay, well, let's see if I can go back to that. So I think that I don't think MLCers aren't usually that intentional. That would be too, they are manipulative, but not in that intentional kind of way. So I don't expect her to have that kind of pre-planning, that kind of forethought. So I do think that her making eye contact, she probably isn't aware of it, that she is progressing. That is progress. But I don't think the progress is at the level of an awakening. And it doesn't have to be this way, but when I think of the awakening, remember how I described it last year? It was probably fall, but it could have been spring when I was talking about it with you. As we think of it as there's an event, like a trigger kind of event, and there probably doesn't have to be, but often we think of the awakening as something happens that wakes them up. Because what we're often asked is, when are they going to wake up? And people, when they ask that, they really mean, or they think they mean, when are they going to get out of this? They think that's an exit. Wake up is an exit. And I know you're asking, is this the awakening? Meaning, are they waking up from this piece of it? Because you've read that and learned that. But I don't think this is the awakening. I think it's progress. And so sometimes you don't see that as the awakening. We don't always see that. It's not, there isn't an awakening phase. Sometimes it's more of a gradual thing where they start to wake up. Well, rather than an awakening where, bam, oh my God, the WTF moment is when there's a shocked awakening, rather than a gradual waking up. And that's progress and a process. And I think she's just taking it a slow process, which means patience, which sucks. I know it sucks. And I think that if you were to bring something up about it, she would look at you and just, oh, poor pitiful soul. She'd think, don't you know we're just friends? He's just not getting it. And that would be her view right now. And that doesn't mean that view won't change or will, honestly. But it might. And you're there, and she's still there. But remember that women do stay. Sometimes they stay because they feel they have to. They feel that. Okay, I'm back. Um, but she's just going to take it slowly. And women stay. They feel stuck, especially if they have been a stay-at-home mom or the lower breadwinner where they really have, maybe they've been a part-time worker and you're the main breadwinner and they really couldn't make it without your finances because they're like, what am I going to do? Maybe they need the health insurance. And it sounds terrible. I mean, we don't want to think of you as just we needing you for the money. And yet sometimes, I mean, it puts all of us, both you and she, in a terrible spot. But sometimes that is why they stay. Okay. We stay for the kids. We stay for the, the benefits that you get. And it doesn't make a person a gold. It means, hey, I don't want to live in a cardboard box, or I want to protect my children. All of these other things. Okay. And hopefully you get those other things, but you come around to the other piece too. You return to yourself, or the new self that is a healthy self, and the person that is there for you, that has been there for you. And you come back into that relationship. That's the goal. That's at least your goal, and what we can hope for both of you. Okay. I know it's not easy, is it? Okay, but that's what I'm hoping. Okay, so you continue to work on yourself. Don't watch her. Just give her that time. I like how you are doing the letting her start the conversations, leaving her to it. If you need therapy, you be in it, and you keep yourself going. And if she has any hobbies or things that she has been passionate about that she's not doing, you can encourage her to do those. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so if anybody is there, you can let me know, and I am going to go on to a couple topics that were suggested. And they might not take long. But one of the first ones was suggested talking about friend zoning. So she said that a lot of people in the in Facebook group have been worried about friend zoning. And should we be worried about it or not? And there's a yes and no to that. And some of the yes and no might be about it in the later stages, but in the earlier stages, maybe there's a benefit to it. And if you get there, sometimes there might not be anything you can do about it. Okay, but I'll tell you where I was in the beginning. Okay. So, friend zoning, and I get the feeling that men seem to be more worried about this than women, but it goes both ways. In the beginning, my goal was, you know what? He should be my best friend. We should be best friends. And we shouldn't be buddies, which is a friend zone thing. We should be friends. And that is an authentic friendship with somebody that you can trust. And I wanted to rebuild that. I wanted to rebuild. And so I was willing to do what I needed to do to rebuild our friendship, to rebuild everything I could. And for the beginning, while Chuck was still at home, and in my situation, he had a friend who had an apartment, and our friend was getting married. She was our friend. I think it's doing it again. Okay, hold on. Okay. She was getting married, and she had an apartment or a condo, and she was going to sublease it to him. But she had to wait. He had to wait till she got out when she had her wedding. So that was about 6 weeks. So I had 6 weeks from bomb drop until he could get into that apartment. And I knew that 6 weeks was my period of time before he's gone. I have 6 weeks, and then he moves. 6 weeks, and then he moves. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So that was my time to rebuild. I have 6 weeks to rebuild our relationship. And I knew, it was just an intuitive thing. I was shocked at bomb drop, but somehow I knew it was real. I knew something about it. And then I had 6 weeks to build a foundation because I could tell he was going to leave. I had to build a foundation that he would want to return to. And after about 2 weeks, I found out about the alienator. And so now that puts another thing in it. I had found out that they were likely to be an alienator, and then I found out there was. So that puts another additional challenge into it. 6 weeks. And so my goal was to do what I needed to do to continue to build that. And that included, at that point during the 6 weeks, that included our marital relationship as well. But even after that and through that summer, because my bomb drop was March, was rebuilding that. I wanted to do things. And one of his love languages is acts of service, or quality time in acts of service. So it was doing biking together was his big thing, but skiing together. He wanted us to do stuff together, activities. And I really needed to jump through some hoops to do those things. That was really so I was glad to be friend zoned because that kind of friend zoned was a friend that he cherished and really wanted. That kind of friend, for at least Chuck, wasn't the kind of friend he sidelined. When we talk about being friend zoned, we're kind of talking about being sidelined over here to this. It's not a will and grace friend. We're talking about this like, oh, you're just a friend, and with that just like minimizing something. But when you're best, you want to be the best friend, the friend that they confide everything in. But the friend zone friend really isn't that. When you're friend zoned in the friend zone manner that I see people actually, when it's actually done, they're not even being friends really. It's really, oh, you're just friends, but you're really not. So what I want you to think about is if you really are actual friend zones, rather than what they say, I feel like I'm being friend zoned. And like, they're friendly. Cherish it. If you are friends, relationships are built on friendships. And I want you to be best friends with your spouse. Best friends to the point that, you can touch their shoulder and arm and invade that personal space and laugh together so that you feel comfortable together. And it's not awkward. And you get that back. You start to get it back. And then you're like, what happened to us? This feels really good. This feels natural. why can't we do this again? And especially once that alienator is gone. The alienator is gone. It's like, you know, what are we doing? What, why are, why are we doing this? Or why aren't we doing this? So I don't have a problem with a true friend zone. It's when you say your friend zone, I think usually it's kind of like a sideline friend. It's not a real friend. And that problem I feel that we're having with it. So to be friend zone for real, if it's a real friend, is probably not as much a problem, and you probably wouldn't have the same level of problem. Okay, so the next topic that was suggested so the next topics that was suggested was the other fish in the sea route. Now, this is something that you may want to do as a stander when you don't quite want to end your stand, but you do want to end it as well. So you can see the trend lines and your spouse, your MLC is not coming back. But hey, what's going to happen in 10 years? Maybe they will. You never know. Maybe they'd be interested, or tentatively so. Or maybe the two of you will someday both be single again. And then both of you would be interested. Well, both of you will be another fish in the sea, each other. And so what you're doing is saying, yeah, I would be willing to date that person. Because some of you are saying, not if they were the last person on earth, not if, not if they were, giving pardons for free and I needed them, all of that kind of thing. Not if they were the last man, woman, whatever. No way. That one person, I'll date anybody but that person. Or, yeah, we have a history together and I'm not going to be pining away for them, but I know them. Or I'd rather be with them. That fish in the sea will be one of the ones that is at the top of my list. Maybe because I know what I'm getting. Maybe they'll be at the bottom of my list because I know what I'm getting, but they're there. So the other fish in the sea route is I am going to open myself up to dating. I'm going to be moving on. And this may be after divorce, but yeah, I'm no longer calling myself a stander, but it doesn't mean you don't have to be a stander to say, I can still date my ex. It's just with a stander, you have a very specific goal and desire in mind. And with a stander, and sure, we talk about how you make standing for yourself. But in a very specific way, if you're standing for your marriage, when the for your marriage part comes into it, there's a spouse on the other end of that for your marriage thing, right? And with the other fish in the sea, you take off the standard part and you say, you know what? I am an independent and I can date who I want and I want to date them, maybe. So you don't have to feel bad, okay, about closing the keeping it slightly open, just a little bit. There's a person and you know that you got along well when it was working, okay? So that's the other fish in the sea. It is one that I do recommend when I can see that and the forward moving spouse is ready for it. You need to be, and by ready, I don't mean you're Oh, good. It's going to do 2 of me again. One frozen, one not. Okay. So, okay, let me catch my train of thought again. Your other fish in the sea route, it's just, it gives you the allowance to not have to stand, but say, you know what? I can do both. Okay. And I'm not waiting. I don't have to wait around. But I don't have to be a stander. And I can still think of that person. I don't have to hate them. But I'm allowed to date as well. Okay. Okay. Now, I did not see the discussion on boundaries. I saw the little notifications come in. Some saying they, I got the idea that somebody was scared of boundaries. And then I got people saying, just little words saying, oh, it looks like you've got good boundaries. So I just wanted to see if there were any questions, which I don't know that anybody's listening. So don't know if there are going to be any questions. And I don't know that anybody would be listening with all the glitches we're having. But I do want to talk about boundaries just a little bit. Okay. And then we will probably close up. But boundaries, I want to talk about why they are important, if anybody is scared about them. The same thing that goes with detachment. Okay, thank you. Hold on. I'm going to read yours. I'm pretty sure that I could invite and convince my husband to go to breakfast with me every weekend. I haven't done that because I feel like he's moving through the tunnel, but still choosing to not reach out to me or engage me very often. Do I allow him to hit rock bottom as a result of feeling the consequences of this decision to move out 13 months ago? Or do I make an active attempt to re-engage? A little, it's difficult. Okay. He's a clingy boomerang, isn't he? I'll wait for you to say. And there's a good chance that it'll go black during the time I wait, but I think you might have said so before. And there goes that darn phone again, which I keep. Okay, so bomb drop was 2 years ago. So he's moving to the. Okay, regular boomerang. Interesting. Okay. Oh, so he was clingy, but not so recently. Oh, and that's interesting. So here's the other thing that I just noticed is anything that came in chat during a blackout is gone away. And so now I can only see what was there that you said now. So, okay, he's clinging, but not so recently, which means I cannot review what you wrote before. The system is not working anymore. Here's what I would do, since he was a clinging boomerang, and I would call him clinging then, okay, because he can cycle. I would try and let him hit rock bottom a little bit more, okay? Give it a few more months and see what happens. See how he does. If he seems to be going toward more depression, and let him feel those consequences. I really want you to work on that. That is going to be really hard, okay? Do smart contact, but keep it very neutral and smart. I want you to test him a little bit on it. And what I mean by test him is you're going to see how long it takes for him to initiate contact. So does he initiate contact? If you say nothing, do nothing, no text, anything, how long is it a dry spell of zero contact? Of any kind. I mean, electronic or oral contact. I mean, by voicemail, that sort of thing, or personal, in-person contact. Is it 1 week, 2 weeks, a month? Test it and see, because you're going to see if there's a window for him where he can't go any longer than this. And then you might figure out, okay, here's his limit. Now you've reached it. Now you know if it goes up to that amount and a little bit over, there's where you initiate maybe. And the initiation you can do is, hi, just was thinking about you checking in, unless there's something that actually, if you couldn't think of something. And if you could think of something, it might be taxes or thing. Okay. But I do want you to try just that. Now, if he had just been a boomerang rather than a clinging, I might really hesitantly suggest a little bit more. Okay, and back. So now all the comments are back. That is the weirdest thing. And they're just yours. So yeah, I would not, but I don't want you to do the engaging because he was a clinging boomerang. I want you to test that. Like I said, it's going to be hard. Try that and then see how it works and report back. Okay. And it's going to be tough. Okay. 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 Yeah, that's what I think you should try. And so, okay, let's talk about boundaries for a minute. Okay. So, why are boundaries scary? Somebody taught, it just looked like in one of the first pieces of the chat that I saw, is somebody was saying, and like I said, I just saw a notification as it came across, that they might be scary. And the same thing happens with detachment. We're afraid to detach because we're afraid they'll get scared that we're not caring. We are afraid of that. If we set a boundary, it's too strict and they'll run away from it. Oh, you're being so mean. I really hate you now. And I have to laugh because I remember when Chuck told me that. It wasn't the mean part, it was the I hate you now. And I'm gonna set the scene for you. I'm on the phone talking to my dad. And I think I might have been talking to him for a very long time on this evening. This was not very long after bomb drop. At bomb drop, within a few days, I'd called my dad. He came, got off work, came and got me from work, and just took me. And we went and we walked around the super mall, just dad and me. So this is a few weeks in, and before Chuck had moved out, and at this point, I'd been packing things and doing some different things around the house while Chuck is screaming at me. And the whole time I'm working on being patient, and my dad was shocked and amazed. He said he was just so impressed with how I was talking to Chuck while talking to dad. Okay, it's giving me two people again. At least both of them are me. Okay, so then I remember Chuck took a shower. And I remember he was throwing his clothes in a bag. And sometimes I mix up two different events, but I remember he got a phone call. And this might have been about a week before he moved out. I'm talking to my dad, and his mom wasn't doing well. And somebody needed to be with his mom. And maybe his dad had another heart attack or some issue and needed to be taken to the hospital. So Chuck was getting ready to move out like in a few days, like the next week. But he had to go then because he was going to go stay with his mom. And they lived about a mile away. And he was gloating over this, that he had to go now. And he's throwing clothes in a suitcase. I'm leaving now. And this is part of the yelling at me while I'm talking to my dad. And I remember this naked man after getting out of the shower standing there yelling at me. And I'm so glad we did the video phone then because I'm talking to dad. And I remember him screaming in the background, I'm so glad you're being like this. And I don't think he called me a bitch. I think he just said being this way because I can hate you now. And I think this was when he was naked. And I walked over. I said, hey, Daddy. I called him Daddy. Yeah, I know. I put the phone down. I said, you know what? I'm going to put you down for a minute. And I walked over to him very softly. I said, and I think I even put my hands up on him like this, on his chest. I said something like very gently and very softly. I said, you know what, Chuck? I will always love you. And I did it as something like you would with your child when you're trying to help them feel safe and secure. Not like a mommy coddle thing, but I mean, I wanted to do it because it was being afraid. Okay, so, but what is that about boundaries? The thing about boundaries is I wanted to set that up, but at the same time, I didn't want to fear that he was going to lose me. But I wasn't going to let that put a fear in me. I knew he was going to leave. I knew I couldn't stop it. So if I know I can't stop it, what good is it to me to, instead of being reassuring and kind and gracious to him, to be a puddle of absolute messy tears on the floor? Because how does that look? It's pretty embarrassing to me to be that way. And it looks pretty disgusting and needy. It's not an attractive force. None of those things are. So one of the things you want to do with a boundary is a boundary teaches people how to treat you. And if you don't have a boundary, you're still teaching people how to treat you. You're teaching them that it is okay to treat you in this abusive manner. You're teaching them that you will allow them to treat you in this abusive manner. And what it means, even if you don't think it does, is it means you're not respecting yourself. And I want to be careful because it's not the same as when your friends out there tell you that standing, you know what? You want him back? You want her back? You're not respecting yourself. It's not the same thing. Because no, I don't want the monster back. That's not what I'm standing for. What they mean is I don't respect what you're doing, not you don't respect it. I don't respect you. I don't respect your actions. And had I chosen to not stand, I can rank the things that are important to me. And my vows to my marriage are important to me. Not just the love that I have, but the vows, the promises I made within those, that I can't just say, I don't love you anymore. I can turn off in some ways. I have a box that we put everything in. We put our marriage in a box because they're hurting us. And so we put it in the box to protect it and say, you know what? I'm not going to let you hurt my marriage, our marriage, while you're trying to destroy us. So you can put your love in a box too, because love isn't just this thing that happens to you. That's limerence. Love is a decision, and love is an action. And there are times where that person, the MLCer, if you were to meet them now, they are not the person you want. No way. No, you are not attractive to me, dude. Uh-uh. You might want to say now, right now to them, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. But the difference with us right now, us standards, is we might say, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, but I want to be. That's the difference. We want to be. We want it fixed. We want it healed. And so while we're not feeling that way, and we can see that it's not going to get there for a while, we can put that in a box too. Okay. And so stop trying to feel in love with somebody that's so the abusers who you're setting boundaries with, the betrayer, and you set boundaries with that person. You set boundaries because I am not going to be treated this way. And you know what? Boundaries are reset. Now, I'm not saying that this person will follow boundaries. What I'm saying is that people respect the person who says, no, you cannot treat me this way. And they do not have respect for the person who doesn't. Now, they might have a relationship with a person that they are disrespectful for. MLCers have relationships with people that they don't respect all the time. They don't often have a lot of respect for the affair down partner that they are in a relationship with. They may have limerence for that person, and they might pine for them. And they might, oh, that's the most amazing person in the world. But respect can be a different thing. Boundaries are how we learn. Think about how your children learn and how they grow and how they stretch and how they test their limits. And as they get older, they test and they move across a boundary. And that boundary needs to stretch and change, because a 10-year-old should have a different boundary than a 12-year-old. It increases. So my daughter Serenity went to her first dance last weekend. Oh, she was so excited. She's 12 and she's in 7th grade. Now Peyton is 8. She's not going to a dance. They don't have them for third graders, at least not that kind of dance. So, different rules for Peyton than for Serenity. And that makes sense. There's boundaries around that. So same thing's going to happen with your MLC. They're going to stretch and they're going to grow. And it's hard because of the regression that they need to have some of these boundaries come back to them. So finances. MLCers are known for being financially irresponsible, and not all of them. Chuck did not do that, but they are going to go out there, many of them, and go through your retirement. And what do you have to do? Sometimes there's nothing you can do, but you do need to perhaps sever your finances if you can, or get them off your credit cards. If you are capable, put them on spending limits. If you have that kind of ability and control over the finances, what can you do? And then understand what you can't do. And they are going to get mad at you. Yes, your children, your teenagers get mad at you when you tell them no. And a boundary doesn't stop your children from loving you. It makes them mad at you. MLCers are going to get mad at you, and they're an adult, and you can't treat me like that. Well, I'm sorry. But you know what? It's not that I'm trying to treat you like a 17-year-old. It's that I'm trying to protect our finances. I'm trying to protect our house, or I'm trying to protect our livelihood. I'm trying to protect. You have to determine with a boundary what you will put up with and what should you put up with. Draw a line around something. Now, is that something you should allow or not? You are in a house. Put your line around this house. Okay, now there's an alienator. Should that alienator be walking into your house? Metaphorically or literally? So is the affair partner actually coming into your house for the affair? Not just because, she came into the house because she was the neighbor, but for the affair. Or should a third party be entering into your metaphorical relationship, the house? That's a boundary crossing. So sometimes when we have an at-home MLCer, they're having an affair, and it's public. Public meaning you know about it, and they know that you know about it. Now, is that crossing a boundary? We know that if having an affair is crossing a boundary. What do you do? What are your limitations? And that's a hard one to answer. I can't answer it for us. I can tell you that I didn't kick Chuck out every time. And I can tell you why I didn't kick Chuck out every time. And the why is because I knew that I called him a 3-monther. He would either come or go within 3 months for the most part. He did come back for a year, and he took the affair underground. He changed the dynamic. But before that, he was a 3-monther. And the energy would ramp up just before the 3-month period, about 4 weeks before it. And that's when he felt the affair was there. And she was, so it seemed like he was trying to not be in the affair. Like you'd come home and he'd put in the effort. And maybe he really was putting in the effort. But after about 4 weeks, suddenly she was there. The energy. Almost back. Okay. So when the energy was there, he would start taunting me. But what he wanted, I'll look in a second, Esmeralda, so I'll just finish my sentence. What he wanted me to kick him out. He'd say that. He would taunt me with it. And when he's taunting, he's trying to get me to do the dirty work, and he would say it. And I said, no, I'm not going to make your decisions for you. And it was clear he was going to move out. So I knew that I could bide that time because he was going to do it. So I'm like, no, you have to make your decision for you. I'm not going to do your dirty. Now, when I could tell he wasn't, or it was a sudden thing, I kick him out. Those are the differences. If you can get somebody you can tell isn't going to go, I often do recommend you kick them out. Okay. Esmeralda, let me see. And we are going to meet in a little bit too. Is it okay to tell your spouse you love them when they're cycling? They just told you they are not happy and they want you to leave the home, and then they're asking if you'll watch TV with them. the cycling. I would personally hold off on it. What would he do and think? If you sat down, first thing, think about somebody who's screaming at you. So he's cycling and not happy. Now think about somebody who's arguing with you. Let's put it in the context of an argument. And an argument where there's emotional and verbal abuse, they're mocking you, or you guys are just, and you could both be going at it with each other. And then you tell them you love them. Then you're telling your abuser you love them. Now, it's not like there's an apology phase. I'm so sorry I did that. I didn't mean to. I really love you. Now, that's different. But if it's not that, but it's kind of like somebody's hitting you and you're telling them you love them. So I don't want that. There's a difference between reassuring somebody that okay, this is annoying, isn't it? So there's a difference between reassuring somebody you're there when it seems like they need the reassurance. And I'm not sure he's seeming like he needs the reassurance or not. Sometimes you might feel he does. But at the same time, also you want to consider how the appearance is to you, how he is going to feel that you look. Wow. I'm being really mean to her. And not like how a child is being mean. And by child, I mean small child, not like a teenager and mom, but the unconditional love that a mom always shows your child. But I mean, versus you don't want to be the simpering, long-suffering wife, or the Stepford wife, where no matter what they have to smile and I love you, dear. You don't want to be that. You want to be authentic, and you don't have to have that. Always saying I love you, but I love you, honey, or any of that. It's you can tell them you love them when they need that and you are feeling it. But Mr. Angry and Mr. Mean might need that, but you shouldn't be feeling it yet. Not in that way, that the need for it. Because what I would think that you would be feeling more is you feel a gap, but you need the healing. You need the gap healed in a different way first. Because they are the cause of your trauma. And there's too much of a trauma bond when we do the love bomb and then we trauma and love bomb and trauma. And I don't want that cycle. Okay? I don't know if that was a great answer or not, but it does concern me. Okay. Okay. Well, I did try and fill up the time and we had a lot of gaps in there, but I think that fills it up. So for those who are not in Thrive does stay, the cart is open until next Thursday. It opens today, and I got kicked out of all words on my computer. I have been able to get, I had to open everything up on my iPad, so it took a little bit of time. But we are open. We close next Thursday, and I will try and do Facebook Live. I will try and make up whatever Okay, I am back. So I can chat with you guys on Monday and Thursday of next week. Okay, so send in questions, And Thrivers, you can send in questions too, or topic suggestions. Okay. Since we had one official question and I just went over topics. Okay. People want to send in topic suggestions, you can submit them in the submission form as well. Okay. And just put in topic and then say, you don't have to give my information. Other than that, I will see you on Monday. For Thrivers, I am going to go grab my lunch and I will see you in about 30 minutes for group coaching. Okay. So for anyone not in Thrive, we have twice a week, we meet for 2 hours. And twice a week, we meet for 1 hour. It says 30 minutes in our description, but in the description, I also do say, I guarantee the 30 minutes, but I always try to stay for 1 hour. Okay. So I will be back in about 30 minutes for the Thrivers. Okay. And I'll see everybody else on Monday. Bye-bye.